When we refer to system in this video, we don't mean to allude to any specific political, cultural, or religious system. Rather, we're talking about what appears to be the basis for all of these, the force behind a wide range of human emotions and behaviors, including anxiety and rage. It's basically being a slave to the whims of our surroundings. When we consider the state of humanity, it becomes clear that a large number of us are greatly impacted by and under the power of the outside world. Often, obtaining our desires from the outside world determines our level of happiness. On the other hand, when it takes something away from us, we get depressed. The acceptance or rejection of others has a significant impact on us. We are lifted up by praise and depressed by dislike. It's interesting to note that we are willing to make greater sacrifices in order to achieve our goals. On the other hand, we are willing to pay more to avoid something if we oppose it more. We become permanently afraid as a result of these cycles of desire, aversion, love, hate, and dislike. This leaves us open to manipulation by accusation and shame, as well as the attraction of outside groups like cults, political parties, and big businesses that are all out to get something from us. We are ruled by the world in this sense, carrots on sticks like a donkey rider, and most of us, like cattle, blindly obey from birth to death. But what would happen if we turned down the carrot, and if we decide to break out of this system? The goal of the antiquated Stoic philosophy is to become independent of our surroundings. It is crucial to understand that breaking free from this system does not require obliterating our environment. There's no fault with the outside world. The universe runs in its own way. In the end, we are powerless over it, even though we do have some influence. The outside world pushes itself upon us, bringing with it unavoidable conditions like sunshine, rain, and wind that can ruin a farmer's crops. The system does not contain these conditions. It's actually our enslavement. That's what they see as the issue. Why then do we let fate's waves carry us off so quickly? Why do the tiniest misfortunes and strokes of luck have the ability to puppeteer our emotions? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus sheds light on this. It is not objects that disturb men, but rather the beliefs and ideas they have about them. For example, Socrates' view shows that death isn't always a bad thing. Our fear stems from the idea that death is something horrible. Therefore, we ought to take responsibility for our own values and ourselves when faced with obstacles, upheavals, or sadness, instead of blaming others. We are the system's only source of energy. The more we accept that misfortune and tragedy are part of nature and outside of our control, the more chance governs how we feel. Thankfully, Stoicism provides us with priceless insight into how to escape this system. These 7 Stoic precepts can help us replace our extremely precarious, unpredictable, and turbulent way of life with one that is tranquil and free. Before we get started, please make sure you are subscribed. And don't be weak, as always. Stay through to the very end. Don't pass up the opportunity to control your feelings. Number 1. Staying happy no matter what. How much time have we wasted wishing for good things to happen and dreading bad things to happen? How many hours have we lost ourselves in tears over the fact that our expectations for the future were not met? People are now skilled at battling fate, and as a result, suffering through the unavoidable suffering it causes. Our unwillingness to accept uncertainty has given rise to a thriving industry, and our fear of hardship offers a way to take advantage of us. Many try to sell us future promises, creating false impressions of security, safeguarding ourselves and our loved ones, and promising to spare us painful experiences while making us their slaves to our whims and distractions. By altering our environment, we attempt to outwit fate and prevent bad things from happening to us. But we cannot patrol every street and alley of reality, nor can we lock every door in the enormous mansion that is life. Even when a lot of time, money, and effort are put into taking precautions, fate always has the last say. Thus, accepting whatever comes our way is the real key to breaking free from the system. By adopting this viewpoint, we can avoid incurring significant costs in an attempt to pointlessly fight against the inevitable, and will be less disturbed when misfortune befalls us. Seneca said so beautifully, "Why then should we be angry? Why do we need to be sad? We know how to face our destiny. Allow nature to handle her own body as she pleases. Let's have a happy mood. Resolve firmly that nothing of our own perishes no matter what happens." Number 2. Letting go of material belongings. People in the social race put in long hours at a job they detest and put up with busy schedules because they are obsessed with accumulating material wealth. We have been socialized by society to think that certain things, such as a particular income, social standing, friend group or suburban house, determine one's level of happiness. We believe that we cannot be happy as long as we are devoid of these. We must nevertheless consider the worth of these initiatives. These endeavors mainly pertain to the domain in which chance and fate hold absolute power. Pursuing this is like fighting against forces we can never really win. Seneca questions the worth of these material belongings in a letter titled On True and False Riches, addressed to Lucilius. Do the jewelry, chairs, and other items adorned with diamonds and gold really make us happy? Or are they just means to display what appears to be a beautiful life? Seneca contends that nothing outside of ourselves should determine our happiness. This perspective empowers us to be independent of external circumstances, no matter how commonplace they may be, whether they involve wealth like gold and silver, or even the most basic needs like water and cereal. Seneca goes on to say that people who are free from outside influence, rather than those who are merely influenced by luck, enjoy true freedom. He makes reference to the lessons taught by his mentor Atlas, stressing that by concentrating on these concepts, we can work toward being content within ourselves, rather than pursuing approval from others. Imagine yourself in a contemporary society where the pressure to fit in and the expectation of material wealth constantly push you to put in more effort to get more. You work a job that you detest sincerely and have to put in long hours every day. The Stoic school of thought holds that you begin to doubt the real worth of the goals you are pursuing. You understand that material things like a certain income, social standing, or personal preferences shouldn't determine your level of happiness. You choose to concentrate on discovering happiness within yourself rather than looking outside of yourself for it. You start to learn how to live without the influence of other people. The pursuit of happiness through material possessions or the pressures of society's race no longer affect you. Rather, you seek inner freedom and contentment within yourself, independent of external validation, in order to achieve true happiness. It is crucial that we pursue independence and happiness internally rather than relying on things outside of ourselves or on our possessions. By focusing on our personal development and choosing to truly become happy rather than just trying to appear happy, we can find true freedom and contentment. We can use this important lesson from Stoic philosophy in our day-to-day activities. Number 3, letting go of strong human attachments to people. Letting go of strong human emotions toward people can have significant and frequently negative consequences. These feelings have the potential to push us to the brink of irreversible action as our desperation to stay with the person we love starts to control our lives. The romance between Padme and Anakin in the prequel trilogy to Star Wars serves as an example of the perils of unhealthy attachment, as well as how it can attract malevolent forces that can corrupt people. Palpatine successfully took advantage of Anakin's anxiety over losing Padme, with disastrous results. Dark forces could not have held Anakin captive if he had approached love in a different way, one that was free of force, fear, and possessiveness, and instead based on freedom, trust, and detachment. Padme and Anakin's relationship serves as a lesson in the negative effects of letting love turn into an obsession. Anakin went down a dark path in an attempt to stop his greatest fear, that of losing Padme. This fear-based attachment eventually affected his judgment and left him open to the Sith's influence. The significance of inner freedom and self-awareness is emphasized in this story. Anakin might have resisted the dark side's temptations if he had concentrated on developing his inner strength, self-control, and soul. Rather, he let outside events and his loyalty to Padme control him, which finally caused him to change into Darth Vader. Strong yet practical advice on attachment to the things we value is provided by Epictetus. He says we ought to think of them as something that is bound to break or disappear. He reminds us that our choices apply to broad categories, not to particular cases. For instance, realize that your affection for one porcelain cup extends to all porcelain cups in general. You won't be hurt too badly when it breaks. In a similar vein, cherish your family members and children as unique human beings to avoid experiencing heartache upon their departure. This viewpoint promotes more unconditional love and aids in separating feelings from material possessions. This makes it easier to assess everything's uniqueness and beauty without suffering. Acknowledging uniqueness in lasting love facilitates managing the intricacies of interpersonal connections. Finding stability and appreciating diversity is the outcome of avoiding fixation on a single person. Number 4. Mastering the ability to endure. Whenever we find ourselves in unwelcome circumstances, most of the time our first thought is to figure out a fast way out. That might not always be feasible, though. Because of this, we frequently turn to moaning, complaining, and feeling bad because we think we have a right to a better situation. In actuality, though, we don't always have the authority to make demands, and patience is the best strategy for handling the circumstance. How many times have we abandoned our beliefs, cheated on our morals, or thrown away our principles in order to avoid suffering? Suffering gives people a great deal of strength, which motivates them to act unethically or refrain from doing good deeds. We unintentionally step into the trap set by those who wish to control us by avoiding suffering, which is still a tool of control. Therefore, if it becomes difficult to bear a painful situation, we are willing to trade freedom for a little relief from pain and difficulty. We are able to understand Marcus Aurelius's wisdom. His ideas impart the lesson that patience is not always a bad thing. Even though it may result in death, patience has its uses and advantages for us. Everything that occurs is either bearable or not, in his opinion. If it's tolerable, then put up with it. Give up whining. If it is intolerable, then cease voicing grievances. Its demise will coincide with your destruction. Just keep in mind that if you approach anything as being in your best interest, your nature or your interest, you can endure anything your mind can make bearable. This strategy can be likened to Albert Chu's interpretation of the Greek mythological figure Sisyphus. Sisyphus was sentenced by the gods to push a rock up a hill forever. Accepting his fate wholeheartedly would have allowed him to escape, making his punishment no longer feel like a punishment. Similar to this, Stoic philosophy encourages us to accept our circumstances as they are and discover true freedom and peace in them, free from outside influences or material belongings. This viewpoint emphasizes the significance of having inner peace and accepting oneself as the prerequisites for independence and genuine happiness. One can apply this priceless lesson from Stoic philosophy to their everyday lives by emphasizing personal development and genuinely becoming happy rather than just striving to appear happy. Number 5. Reliability for reputation is less important to Stoics. Reputation is valued generally. Although it is simple to have, happiness does not depend on it. Moreover, external reputation is ultimately out of our control, just like everything else. Some people work their whole lives to establish a solid reputation, only to have it ruined by one careless action. On the other hand, some people live moral lives and don't give a damn about their social status, but by coincidence, they end up well known and well liked. Here, it is evident that reputation is ephemeral, much like the wind. The more we depend on other people's opinions, the more we value our reputation. Furthermore, when we obsess over other people's opinions, we open ourselves up to manipulation and exploitation, which turns us into environmental slaves. According to Epictetus, having a good reputation shouldn't get in the way of our mental health. If it is necessary to achieve peace and freedom, we should be prepared to accept things like humiliation, criticism, exclusion, and mockery. Since we have control over these later states, other people's views and remarks have no bearing on them. Think about the tale of John and Mike, two friends. When establishing his reputation, John is constantly cautious and exacting. He upholds respect in the community, helps others, and does good deeds on a regular basis. But one day, John commits a small error that becomes enormous and disproportionate in the eyes of everyone, swiftly tarnishing his image. Mike, meanwhile, lives a dishonest life. He doesn't care to uphold his reputation in society and routinely transgresses ethical standards. But by a fortunate turn of events, Mike gains notoriety after taking part in a noteworthy occasion and getting favorable press from the media. Mike unexpectedly gains recognition and fame for this, despite not having sought it out on purpose. This example shows how reputation is unpredictable and subject to sudden changes. Overly focusing on our reputation may cause us to become reliant on the opinions of others. It is more crucial to concentrate on managing our emotions and mental state instead. To attain freedom and peace, as the philosophy of Stoicism suggests. Number 6. Handling provocation and insults. Our natural responses tend to be hostile and irrational. The system gives others power in this way, which depresses us and lets their decisions influence our own. This unintentionally links our happiness to other people's deeds. People with negative characteristics like narcissism, mental illness, or malice toxicity can creep into our lives like raindrops, hoping to fill us with misery and negativity. But we have an important option. As Viktor Frankl pointed out, there is a space between stimulus and response. We are able to select how we will react there. Our ability to grow and be free is found in our response. When we react to these people with hatred, fear, or rage, we are effectively giving up control of our emotional health. On the other hand, if we choose to ignore them, they can't contaminate our surroundings and enter our hearts and minds. By taking this decision, we protect our autonomy and peace of mind. This situation clearly teaches us that we are only slaves to the extent that we allow ourselves to be or are unaware of our ability to choose freedom. Let's say you work with a coworker who regularly exhibits toxic behavior and arrogance. This person tries to hurt you by constantly criticizing your work. You used to confront them and react angrily in the past. As a result, you experience stress and a shift in your emotions, in addition to a detrimental effect on your work. However, you choose to handle it differently after reading about Stoic philosophy and taking Viktor Frankl's advice to heart. Instead of becoming upset, you decide to ignore the criticism from this destructive coworker and keep your composure. By doing this, you stop letting them influence your emotions and mental autonomy. You safeguard your optimistic outlook while concentrating on your work. You consequently gain strength. Focus on your own growth and don't let other people's negativity affect you. Number 7. Accepting mortality. There are those who think that fear of death is the root of all fear, like the fear of being hurt. Our way of life can be profoundly impacted by our fear of dying. According to Stoic philosophers, living a moral life has greater significance than living a long life. Although we have no control over how long we live, we do have control over how well we live. When we are afraid of dying, we may end up living only to avoid dying rather than fully embracing life and making it meaningful. Because of this fear, we constantly look for circumstances that provide a sense of security and avoid even the tiniest risk, making us feel like nervous sheep, heeding the advice of any shepherd who offers a better day. But no shepherd can deliver us from the unavoidable effects of life, from our own deterioration, and from the eventual return of our physical forms to the natural world. The fear of dying is worse and more pointless. It may keep us from leading brave and moral lives. According to Marcus Aurelius, dying is a natural occurrence, just like maturation, growth, or the appearance of gray hair. All things are born, die, and change. Philosophers ought to accept death as one of life's inevitable events, rather than forecast it with aloofness, eagerness, or contempt. Applying Stoic principles can teach us important lessons on how to escape the social rat race and seek true happiness by re-evaluating our pursuit of material wealth and external recognition. Much like we anticipate the birth of a child from a mother's womb, we can turn inward, looking within for true fulfillment and independence. Recall that the constant chase of monetary gain and social prestige frequently results in tension, discontent, and an unquenchable thirst for more. Rather, the pursuit of knowledge, inner peace, and personal development should take precedence. Please like this video if you find these Stoic strategies for escaping the social rat race to be helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful videos on philosophy and personal development, and feel free to leave a comment with your ideas. Your encouragement motivates us to keep disseminating information that can improve your quality of life. We appreciate your participation in our community